This is another custom gaming / workstation build by Haste Repair Group. I'll put into a CoolerMaster Masterbox MCB-B320L PC case that comes with 2 RGB fans for front air intake, and there's a controller in the inside of the case and controlled by a reset button on the top I/O, which is really cool. And I also installed 3 times UpHere LED RGB flashing case fans as well. Those are powered by Molex. And for CPU, we have an Intel Core i7-2600 4-core 8-thread 3.4 GHz 3.8 GHz with boost CPU. And we have a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 974GB GDDR5 graphics card, 1664 cores. Pretty great gaming budget option in mid-2022. The CPU cooler is a mini version of the Hyper 212, I guess. It's a CoolerMaster Hyper T20 compact air cooler. We also have 20 gigabytes of DDR3 1600 megahertz RAM of the HyperX Hynix variety, I believe. So up here on the top I/O of the case, we have 2 times USB 3.0 with the power button. I guess I'm showing off the front intake grills there too. This is a really good case for cooling. There's audio in and out. There's the reset button on the far left that will control the RGB fans in the front. And there's a little dust grill on top and those 2 fans. There's the rear exhaust fan. And looking at the back I/O of the motherboard, looks like we have 4 times USB 2.0 and 2 times USB 3.0. Old style PS2 mouse and keyboard port, RJ45 Ethernet port, some display ports that you won't really need to use with the graphics card installed, and audio in and out. On the graphics card we have 3 times DisplayPort, 1 times HDMI, and 1 times DVI. And here's a rear shot of the power supply, which is a Corsair CX 650M 650 watt power supply. So here's another look at the PC case with the tempered glass panel. Good cable management in this case. There's a 1 terabyte hard drive installed for storage. There is a Samsung 128 gigabyte solid state drive for a boot drive, and a Lexar 256 gigabyte solid state drive for games or whatever else. Here's an example of just that, and this is Doom Eternal running on a mixture of high graphics settings. And initially I had VSync turned off, but I found that it performed much better with VSync turned on, especially with the type of monitor that I was using. We managed to keep a solid 60 frames per second with everything looking really good. And on to Dead by Daylight, of course, we have VSync activated as always on this game, and we were able to keep a solid 60 frames per second. You can definitely have a good time playing this game. And here we have Skater XL, and we're averaging around 115 to over 130 frames per second on very high and ultra settings. And Tomb Raider 2012 benchmark. Of course, there's no problem running this. As you can see, we had well over 200 frames per second on average. And now the Rise of the Tomb Raider benchmark. We are averaging over highs of around 120, lows of around 40 frames per second with an average of 68.03 frames per second. And the Unigine Heaven benchmark on high graphics settings produced some really good results, as well as on ultra settings. And coming up, we have the Unigine Superposition Benchmark, which also has some really good results. Not a lot of stuttering with this card and CPU combo. You can play a variety of different games, and also do video editing, photo editing, and whatever else you might want to use with your workstation. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what you can do with an i7-2600 CPU paired with a GTX 970 GPU in 2022 and onward. This hardware has a lot of life in it, and I think if you just manage your expectations, you can keep things to a budget and have a really good time with computers.